Hi, my name is Wong. I am one of the co-founders of Leap Game Studios, and today I would like to tell you a bit about our story, about how we started the studio, and why are we doing this. But first, let me tell you a bit about Peru, which is where we are based. And that is usually the image that you have in mind when you think about Peru, which is Machu Picchu, one of the wonders of the world. And we all love Machu Picchu, and we are very proud of our Incan heritage. But usually what we have in mind when we think about Peru or about our cities, something like this. This is a picture of Lima, and Lima is the capital city. This is where we are based as well, and it's a modern city. It's a city that is developing very fast. It's in a very specific and strategic place in Latin America. It is growing fast, but at the same time, Lima can also be something like this, because we have a very informal economy as any other developing country in the world, and Peru in general has a very extractive economy. So there are a lot of mining companies, there are a lot of industries, big industry, but there's actually no or almost no technological industry here. So there are some startups, but this is not Finland, or this is not the US. So when we started thinking about starting a game studio, like everyone thought that we were crazy, because how are we going to make a game studio in a place where there's no game industry? So this was something that we were thinking back in 2012, and actually we decided to make the leap, and we started this by organizing a game jam. So we organized the Lima Game Jam 2012, which was part of the Global Game Jam, and this was the first game jam that was organized here in Peru, and we gathered around 25 people, and during that weekend we started making games. We actually developed some prototypes, and we kind of started to learn how to make games. But more important than that, we started creating a small community. So the next step for us was to grow that community, and that is why we started the local chapter of the IGDA here in Peru, which was very important because it was an excuse to gather all the people that were interested in games at the moment. So that means the universities, some places of the government, and also some of the indies that were making games at that moment. And while doing that, we decided that we wanted to start the studio. So that is how we started Leap, and that was in 2012, and there's a lot that has happened since then. We started making games in the living room of one of the co-founders. Initially, we only worked during weekends. We started making games for clients, but eventually we started making our own games. And actually, the first game that we made was the game that we prototyped in the game jam that I just mentioned, and that game was Squares, which was released on PlayStation Vita in 2015. And it was crazy because we even showcased the game during E3 at one of PlayStation's conferences, and that was a very important milestone for us. Some other things that have happened along the way were that, for example, some people from the industry in the US or in Europe came to Peru, and they visited us, and we got to know them and got their feedback. For example, you can see in that picture Rafael Colantonio, which was one of the co-founders of Arcane Studios. And the same happened with the guys from SUPERHOT, for example, that came a couple of years ago. So it's always been difficult for us to make games in a country where there's almost no game industry, and also in a place that is so far away from all the main hubs of the game industry. So when we have to travel to GDC, for example, it's a long way for us because it's far, because it's expensive, and it's also probably the only time during the year in which we can see all the people and talk with all our friends that we usually only talk via email or on Twitter. So it's always been a bit more difficult for us to do all the things because we are not in Europe, in Western Europe, or in the US, for example. And although we have always tried to gather with all the Latin American studios, for example, it's always difficult because it's expensive and it's difficult to organize something. So actually, the best moment for us to meet with our Latin American developers is at GDC in San Francisco. And we've grown a lot. This picture was taken last year, and actually right now we are more than 25 people working on several projects. And for us, it has been very important to not only develop great games, but also to develop a great team. And this is important because the initial dream that started with the co-founders is now shared with all the people that work at the studio. And we're very happy to share this vision and dream with everyone. We can also talk about the games that we have made along the way. For example, This Is Squares, the game that I mentioned that was released on PlayStation Vita. And currently we're also working on another game which is called Tunche, which is coming out next year and is coming to PC and consoles. And this game is very important for us, not only because it can do well commercially, but also because it is based on Amazon legends and myths. And usually when you think about Peru, you think about Machu Picchu, but there's a lot more than that. So for example, we have the Amazon jungle, and we decided to have that and use that for our game. So Tunche is based entirely on this, and it's a big responsibility for us because it's one of the moments in which we can tell the other part of our story and the other part of our culture in a game. So it's a big responsibility for us, and we're working very hard to not disappoint anyone. And another game in which we have been working in the last couple of years is Arog, which was a co-production with another local studio, Hermanos Magia. And this game is special for us because it's a very different game. It's a narrative game. It's a game that you can play in 30 minutes. It's in black and white. And it tells the vision that we have in Peru and in Latin America about death, which can be very different from the view that people in other places of the world can have about death. And it's a game about letting go, for example. And so it was very important for us to be able to publish that game and to develop this game and to release it, so we can share this vision that we have with our people in the world through a video game. And we can keep talking about games, but for us, one of the most important things that we have gathered along this journey has been the people that we've met along the way, and they have shaped how we make games, and they have also shaped how we work and how we deal with life, actually. These have been people that have not only helped us maybe publish a game or release a game or maybe enter to a special market, but they have also become friends. And for me, this is the most important thing that games have given me: friends. Because we can talk about the games, we can talk about maybe the opportunities to travel around the world. But to be honest, people are the most important thing that we have encountered through making this game studio. And more important than the people that we have encountered along the way through events or traveling around the world is the people that are part of the studio, because this started as a dream for 4 people, and it has become the dream of more than 20 people. And it's very rewarding for us to be able to share this vision and these goals with all the team. And for us, this has become not only a responsibility to make games, to make great games, and not only a responsibility to develop the industry here in Peru, but also a responsibility so all of these people can keep making what they really like, which is making great games. Thank you.